Perfect. So you're all, again, very welcome to our first ATRIUM TNA showcase featuring Malamatenia Panagiotou, Vasiliki Sampa, and Nicky Garland. So I'm going to introduce our three speakers, and they're each going to talk for about 10 minutes and give presentations on their experiences of the TNA scheme. And then afterwards, we're going to have a Q&A. So if anybody has any specific questions about elements of the scheme or elements of the research that's been described by our researchers, you can ask your questions then. We're also very lucky to have Nicky with us, because Nicky is very much involved in the facilitating and administration and answering all the possible questions that people have about the TNA scheme. So now is your chance to ask him directly while you have this opportunity, and also hear about his own experiences of the TNA scheme, along with Tania and Vasiliki, who also both had really successful and interesting, rewarding times at the TNA scheme. So I'm going to hand over to Nicky in a sec. So I'll just give a quick introduction for the purposes of the recording. For those of you who don't know Nicky, Nicky is the Training and Communications Manager for the Archaeology Data Service at University of York. Nicky is an archaeologist with extensive experience of teaching and training in both developer-led archaeology and academia. He completed his doctoral research in 2017 at the UCL Institute of Archaeology on the archaeology of Iron Age and Roman Britain. So, Nicky, the floor is all yours, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Amelia. Let me just arrange my screen and I'll start sharing my presentation. Okay. Hopefully you can all see that okay. Great. Thank you, Amelia. So yeah, my name is Nicky Garland. I'm the kind of administrator of the Transnational Access Scheme. I'm kind of excited today to introduce you to the ATRIUM Transnational Access Scheme, because I think it's a kind of fantastic opportunity for researchers in the arts and humanities to kind of collaborate internationally with different organizations and with different people. So my talk today is going to focus more on the scheme and what it is and what it's about. And then, as Amelia said, I can answer any questions at the end, and if you have interest in applying to the scheme itself. So just to introduce a little bit about the ATRIUM project, ATRIUM stands for Advancing Frontier Research in the Arts and Humanities. The purpose of the project is to connect digital research infrastructures across the arts, archaeology, languages, and open scholarly communication in the social sciences. The Transnational Access Scheme forms part of ATRIUM. And through this scheme, the project aims to enable 200 researchers to receive full funding to visit 16 different institutions across Europe, which would hopefully provide them access to both top facilities and expert knowledge. There are two types of TNA scheme that we offer, what we call summer schools and individual access. So let me just describe what summer schools are. They're essentially, if you're looking for an immersive learning experience, then our summer schools offer intensive training on specialized topics, and they typically last 1 to 2 weeks. These are structured group sessions, which are set at specific times during the year. And the application for them is relatively straightforward. All you have to do is fill out a short form and then provide what we call a supporting statement. So this is to provide giving you an opportunity to provide information about how the training experience will help your research and your organization. So it's a fairly easy process to do. This picture here was taken in Brno last year at the second summer school that was hosted by the AISCR. Lots of very smiling people in a very nice, warm location. So just to give you an idea of what we're offering. The second element is what we call individual access. This is more tailored support, and it lets you work one-on-one with relevant experts to get guidance about your own specific research questions or research topics. And this part of the scheme is available year-round, so it's provided on a rolling basis. But you do need to provide a slightly more fuller project proposal when you're applying. So the application involves providing aims and objectives, descriptions of the work, dissemination plans, a personal statement about yourself. And the two speakers that are going to follow me today are going to talk about their examples of individual access visits, so you'll be able to learn a little bit more. In terms of who can apply, the great thing about this scheme is the requirements are relatively straightforward. And the key requirement is that you must apply to an institution or organization that's outside the country that you currently reside in. So if you are a student at a university in France, then you can't apply to one of the organizations based in France, but you can apply to all of the organizations outside of France. And the purpose of this is to provide that transnational access element where we are visiting other research organizations and trying to broaden those connections across Europe. The only other requirements is you need to complete an online form and you need to provide us with a short report afterwards to tell us about what you did. And if there's any research outputs that come from your placement, would be great to hear them, because obviously that allows us to understand the impact of the scheme once the project is over. The TNA scheme as well is open to all levels of researchers. So you could be an undergraduate student, you could be a professor, you still have the same access to the scheme. And equally, it's not necessarily just restricted to universities. If you perform research in any organization that's related to arts and humanities, you can apply to this scheme as well. And that's one of the great things about it, I think, is that that it is open to so many people and there's only a limited restriction. That being said, I have a personal experience of undertaking a transnational access scheme many years ago. And I applied to the Archaeology Data Service, where I now work. I was not eligible for the funding because I was within the UK, but I was still able to go. I self-funded myself, and many years later, I ended up taking those skills back to the ADS. So it just shows you the impact of some of these schemes can have. It provides those connections that hopefully you can utilize in the future. If you're interested in the scheme, all the information is on the website, on the Atrium website, and the link is here at the bottom of the screen. This QR code takes you directly to the transnational access pages. All the information about eligibility requirements, all of the review procedures, all of the application form information is there ready to access. But you can also obviously ask us questions after this, and I'm more than happy to provide information. So let's get to the exciting bit, which is that the third call for the Transnational Access Scheme is now open and is available for applications. It started mid-September and it runs to the end of May. So if you're interested and you're thinking about applying, now's the time to start preparing your applications. And I just wanted to give you a flavor of what's on offer in terms of the different elements in this particular call. So for individual access placements, there are 11 different organizations that you can apply for. And I'm just going to kind of list through these organizations because it gives you a kind of idea of the different kinds of organizations that you can apply for. They include the Austrian Center for Digital Humanities and Cultural Heritage, the Andreas Pittas Art Characterization Laboratory in Cyprus, the Belgrade Center for Digital Humanities, the Greek National Infrastructure for Language Resources and Technologies, hosted by Athena in Greece, the Digital Research Infrastructure for the Humanities in Poland, the Digital Research Infrastructure for Language Technology, hosted by the Charles University in the Czech Republic, GATE, Clarin UK at the University of Sheffield in the UK, Hypermedia Research Group, University of South Wales in the UK again, Polish and European Literature Bibliography, hosted at the Polish Academy of Sciences, the Virtual Environment Lab at the Cyprus Institute, and finally, Athens University of Economics and Business. So you can see there's a wide range of different places that we can apply to, which is great. And I think if you need to, there's lots of information on the website about all of these organizations and the research services they provide and the expertise that they have. So if you're interested in any of these organizations, there's lots more information on the Atrium website. We're also offering 3 different summer schools as part of this call. So you apply during this call and then the summer schools are hosted later in the year. The first one being Transcribo Quest, which is in Lyon, France, hosted by Crema. And this is training in how to do automatic text transcription with historical manuscripts. The AISCR in the Czech Republic are offering training in creating, processing, and managing 3D models. And this includes photogrammetry and laser scanning. And here at the ADS, we're also offering a training school in data management and digital preservation, which will be hosted in York in November. So you need to apply in this scheme to attend these particular summer schools later in the year. If you'd like to find out more about the successful applicants of the scheme, we also have a TNA blog. So this is real stories from people who have benefited from the program so far. You can read through some of the experiences they had and get an idea of some of the opportunities that may be on offer as part of ATRIUM TNA. Obviously, we're also going to hear from people today as well, which is fantastic, and next week as well, a different set of speakers next week. So be sure to kind of tune in and hear a little bit more. And you can even, if you're a successful placement, then you can offer your report for your placement as a blog post, so you can be featured on the ATRIUM website as well. Just to wrap up and looking ahead, as I said, the third call is now open, so please do apply. We have our TNA showcase today and next week as well, and the recordings will be available via YouTube. Our fourth call for the TNA is open later this year in October, and there'll be 2 calls in 2026 as well. So always keep an eye on the ATRIUM website and the social media channels, because this is where the TNA school calls will be announced first. And I'd recommend signing up to the ATRIUM newsletter as well, because that's where you see the first kind of avenues of these applications, and you can find out more. That's all for me. Thank you very much. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you so much, Nicky, for that incredibly comprehensive presentation. I feel like that really framed just how many opportunities there are with the TNA scheme in such an excellent way. And I'm very excited to introduce our next recipient of the TNA scheme, which is going to be Dr. Malamatenia Panagiotou, who is a researcher at the Consumer and Sensory Lab of the Department of Food Science and Nutrition at the University of the Aegean, Greece, specializing in applied linguistics and terminology. She studies consumers' cognitive perception of food and their emotional responses to food consumption through linguistic expression, with a focus on social media language. She serves as a board member and a member of the General Scientific Council of the Hellenic Society for Terminology, as a member of the Executive Board of the International Information Center for Terminology, and as a member of the Hellenic Organization for Standardization, Technical Committee 21, Terminology and Language Resources. She is an active member of the International Terminology Network, TermNet, the International Language of Food Network, and the European Association for Lexicography. So it's all yours, Tania. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation. I'm going to share my screen. And right. All right. Is this all right for you? Okay. So as you said, I am a researcher at the Consumer and Sensory Lab of the University of the Aegean, the Department of Food Science and Nutrition. And I was I was informed of the ATRIUM Transnational program through the Clarin L, the Greek infrastructure newsletter. So that's how I heard about the program and applied. And I was placed at the Clarin UK infrastructure, and more specifically, the GATE team at the School of Computer Science at the University of Sheffield. I find that NLP tools can significantly enhance data collection and analysis. So with a background in linguistics, while trying to explore how language can reveal insights into consumer behavior, culture-specific and cross-cultural food-related trends, and consumer expectations, I I found that this program would be really helpful for me. A few words on the context of my research that falls within the field of consumer studies. We are trying to understand consumers, and more specifically, consumer acceptance and liking of food products, their expectations. It's a culture-specific field. Culture defines our attitudes, and we collect data from the senses, sensory responses and emotional responses to food consumption. And language is the window to the mind of the consumer and the key to consumption-related phenomena. So I'm going to give you a couple of studies, past studies before my placement, as an example of what we have been doing and why I sought further training in NLP tools. First, we tried to see how consumers perceive of traditional versus new alternative meats, and an example of this was snails. Snails is a traditional food for the Mediterranean area and Greece specifically, but it's also a product used in novel forms, such as powder form or dried fillets, etc., as a protein source, an alternative to meats. And the other study was with a focus on cheese. We studied local versus imported cheeses. Cheese is another staple agricultural product of Greece and the Mediterranean area. So we chose the Instagram social media platform because I don't know if you are users and are aware that the fact that food is one of the most posted topics on Instagram. So what we get from social media posts on Instagram is what we can see on the left. So we can see usually a picture or a collection of pictures or a video. We have the caption, the text, followed by hashtags, and we also see how many likes from followers the post has received. And on the right is the code behind the post, and we use Python scripts, LLMs, and artificial intelligence applications such as ChatGPT to collect and analyze data. So from the specific study on traditional foods, after using LLMs and AI to analyze our data, we were able to come up with some conclusions, for example, relating to ethnocentrism or regiocentrism, which are consumer-related phenomena. Consumers choose consciously to purchase products, national or local products, either because of familiarity or to support local economy. And we also studied neophobia, which is the reluctancy of the consumer to eat unknown foods. So by analyzing our data, we were able to identify key concepts: tradition, regionality, environmental concerns, and health concerns. Tradition was identified as a synonym to family and childhood and home. Regionality, we found that means authenticity, freshness, tradition, health, and love. We found environmental concerns to be of low interest, and we found that by analyzing frequency of appearance of hashtags and engagement of followers. And it's of low interest when consuming traditional foods, but being local and bio were appreciated by the consumers. And health concerns, especially regarding meat consumption, had to do with reduced meat consumption or religious fasting. And on the other hand, neophobia, we found that Greek consumers specifically are willing to accept new foods if they contain known ingredients. And we also found within the posts that we collected that new food forms are promoted as easy and quick to prepare or as gourmet. And our conclusion was that you can promote new foods by creating a link to traditional ingredients or recipes. So this is an example of a study that urged me to see that maybe I need to learn more about NLP tools. Our current study and the one where we are going to use the tools I have trained at the GATE during my GATE placement is the conceptual mapping of agricultural foods. We're going to collect data from online sources, not social media posts only this time. For example, from Reddit or online reviews and Google Trends for food trends and word trends analysis, but also we are going to conduct consumer studies using questionnaires and focus groups. And our ultimate aim is to create an ontology of agricultural foods. So we're looking for key concepts. For example, we expect to see sustainability or ecology and health. We are going to collect sensory attributes per food type. For example, the sensory attributes of cheese or wine or honey. Related aspects such as places of consumption or occasions of consumption, which are important to study the consumers. And we're also looking into connections between concepts. For example, is sustainability important for animal products but not beverages? And we're going to use this data for future consumer cultural and linguistic studies, both historical and contemporary. So this is the context where we are going to use the NLP tools. So here you see the GATE cloud. As I said, I was placed at the University of Sheffield with the GATE NLP group. They have a platform with tools available, and they offered me access to tools under development, and I'm really thankful for that. I played around with a few tools and found some really interesting ones helpful for our research. For example, the named entity recognizer, which we can use for network analysis, concept network analysis, or the Tweety named entity recognizer for hashtag tokenization. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples next. We are also going to use sentiment analysis and opinion mining tools from the platform. I didn't know there was a food price predictor, but I think it will be interesting for our research and food industry. The persuasion technique classifier can also be used to analyze professional posts on social media. The user classification can help us identify whether the post comes from a person, a place, or an organization. And here you see an example of the named entity recognizer, which is a tool that has a predefined list of geopolitical locations, organizations, nationalities, time references. You put your text that you want to analyze in the box that tests this pipeline. You choose from the parameters that you want to be highlighted, and then you get the response. And another tool is the Tweety named entity recognizer, which really helps us to deal with the problem that we had. As you probably know, hashtags can be one or multiple words written as one. It could be an entire sentence. So I'm giving an example here. My mom cooks better than yours. We were not able to analyze this type of hashtags before, but using this tool, we get, here you see in the circle, we get the words with spaces in between, so we can take that and analyze that further. And here you see the team I'm working with, Professor Kaloudis, who is an IT expert. We are working on data collection and analysis together, and Professor Gagionis, who is the director of the Consumer and Sensory Lab. He's a sensory scientist, and we are going to use the tools together. But I would like to add that beyond the tools that the GATE team has developed and has helped me use, I also received valuable guidance on other research problems that we had. For example, how to optimize ChatGPT and large language models for consistency in responses, or on clustering social media post hashtags into semantically meaningful groups for further analysis. So these two were challenges high on our research agenda. And I'm grateful for the specialized insight I received. We engaged in discussions. Apart from the training, we discussed ontology and semantic network development, and these discussions were one of the most rewarding aspects of my visit. So I would like to take the opportunity to thank the GATE team for their openness and their generosity. And a special thanks to Dr. Diana Maynard, who is with us today, the deputy head of the NLP research group. Thanks, Diana. And I'm really grateful to the ATRIUM Transnational Access Scheme for giving me the opportunity for an individual placement, and for the overall process of applying and getting the funding that was really smooth. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tania, for such an interesting presentation. I have to say I was fascinated by that, in particular because I feel that we all have experience of social media, but to see how it can really specifically and technically be used to support a research project or a thesis, using technology like the one you've described is super interesting. So thank you so much for sharing, and it's wonderful to hear that the ATRIUM scheme was helpful in supporting such an interesting project. So I'm going to also now introduce Vasiliki Sampa, who's going to be our last speaker before we move to the Q&A. So Vasiliki holds an academic foundation in Greek philology, specializing in classics from National and Kapodistrian University of Athens. She pursued her passion for blending humanities and technology through a master's in digital humanities at Uppsala University, where she gained expertise in natural language processing and digital cultural heritage. Vasiliki has contributed to projects at Athena Research Centre, Clarin L, and worked in a corporate setting at Reed Speaker AB, excelling in interdisciplinary and international teams. With a deep commitment to fostering the interplay between technology and the humanities, she is dedicated to ensuring that technological advancement respect and reflect the values of humanity. So thanks so much for joining us, Vasiliki, and the floor is all yours.
Hello, I'm about to share my screen now. Can you see it? Okay. Is it okay for you, everybody? Can you hear me? Can you see the screen also? Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation. That's a really big honor for me. As already been said, my name is Vasiliki Sampa, and I did my master's in digital humanities at Uppsala University. Last autumn, I participated in ATRIUM project, and I hosted particularly from Athena Research Center and Clarin L. I chose particularly this host because I wanted to explore NLP methodology, and especially for Greek language. The topic that I chose is to explore classical gender norms with a textual analysis of Euripides tragedies using voyant tools. This is like a small introduction to the topic. The project examines how digital methodologies can enhance the study of classical texts. It focuses particularly on Euripides tragedies, and it uses language analysis tools. By analyzing language patterns, the portrayal of male and female roles is investigated, highlighting gender dynamics in Euripides works. The project aims to provide deeper insights into classical literature while advancing practices in data sharing and metadata within the field of digital humanities. Why I chose Euripides as a dataset for this project. Euripides challenged traditional gender roles, portraying women as a complex and assertive figures. His female characters, like Medea and Electra, confront betrayal and loss and societal constraints with resilience. And what was particularly interesting for me was the fact that while some critics saw his work as misogynistic, there are also others who argue that he gave voice to women's struggles within a patriarchal society. I started the project with data retrieval. I used Open Library, where I found the text tragedies in PDF form. The corpus includes particularly the tragedies of Orestes, Medea, Heracles, and Bacche. The access was open to the three of them, but it wasn't for Bacche, so I had to contact directly the translator who gave me the access. Then I convert the PDF to TXT form using Clarin L processing services. I continued by cleaning the data. I removed extraneous nodes in order to retain only the dramatic text. And then I created some metadata, including the title, the name of the translator, the name of the author, the year of publication, the word count, etc. And then I uploaded this metadata in the corpus as well at the Clarin repository in order to facilitate the future research and make them accessible. Yeah, and then I continued with the methodology and code development part. I applied ILSP lemmatizer for base form conversion to normalize for word normalization. I merged the given CSV files, and I added character names to dialogues. Then I applied filters to focus on character names and particular parts of speech. Excel was very helpful for filtering and organizing this data. And then I also used Voyam tools for visual representations and linguistic analysis, particularly for collocations. And the analysis part includes keyword frequency and collocation analysis. I started doing that across the whole corpus along the 4 tragedies. The total word count across them was 51,575 words. And this here is a word cloud which indicates the most frequent words. We can see that there is Lego, which means say, the most frequent word. Then we have παιδί, which means child, Kano, which means do, Βλέπω, which means see, and Theos, which means God. Here also is a microsets visualization across the whole body, across the 4 tragedies, where I searched Adras, which means man, and Gyneka. Adras is with the purple on the left, and Gyneka, which means woman, is with pink on the right. And I did that in order to check the presence of these really basic, like gender, let's say, words across the texts and how they are spread. Then I delved into exploring separately each tragedy. I started with Heracles, where the most frequent words were child, say, and see. And as it can be seen in the visualization as well, there are some links of keywords pateras, which means father, and it's linked with dark terms like phonias, which means murderer, skotono, which means kills, and also like there is a super dark word like triskotinos, which literally means 3 times dark. And then there are also the links of mother tied to verbs like trecho, which means run, and fonazo, which means shout. And then we have Orestes, where male terms link mostly to domestic life with words such as bed or house. Female terms tied to death and loss, as we had like collocations with kill and lose. On your left, there is also keyword relative frequencies across Orestes, and we can see that the 5 most frequent words that appear are all of them verbs, something that shows action. We can see Lego, which means saying, Kano, do, Βλέπω, see, Ακούω, hear, and also Θέλω, which means want. And yeah, then we have media. In media, there were some direct lines that indicated a woman's position. One of them was, there is no creature in this world more unfortunate than woman. There are also some male terms tied to action and decision making with the use of words such as find or live. And female terms linked mostly to motherhood and domestic life. This visual representation shows the relative frequencies of παιδί, in pink, which means child, Gyneka, which means woman, and Adras, which means man. And it will be interesting to see how the child and the man in light blue, that the fact that they are not linked only on one point, they follow different directions. And this is something that shows that the man maybe was not that much connected with the children and domestic life issues in this tragedy. Then I went to Vakhe. The central terms were Theos, which means God, and Heri, which means hand. Here, female terms tied to ritual and identity, and male terms tied to responsibility and authority, with dominant words such as, with frequent words such as duty. There is also a bundle visualization that I made of the keywords Gyneka, which means woman, appeared in the yellow bundle, and Andras with a light blue, and I wanted to see if they merge together at any point of the tragedy. And we can see that there are some instances that they appear together. And secondly, there is the word Gyneka, woman again, in yellow, and Mana, which means mother, in pink. And here I wanted to see how in this tragedy, if there is any instance of motherhood, and how is woman really connected with the role of mother. And I could see that, okay, there are enough instances that they co-occur together, but there were also some that they don't appear to connect, and that was kind of surprising to me. The last part was the use of nouns, and I chose to analyze them because nouns are really important for our way of expression. And there, what I did is to separate male and female characters. So I investigated particularly male characters who they focus on child and father and God. These were the most frequent words. And female characters that focus on child, home, and death. You can see that there are some common themes, especially when it comes to familial focus, as both genders emphasize in family, and also there is a divine influence, as there was frequent references to God and faith and relatable vocabulary. In conclusion, one final thought is that Euripides presents a view of gender with both male and female characters navigating themes of family and society. Males often connect to divine influence, while females often link to mortality and loss. And yeah, that was my presentation. That was the work that I did at Athena Research Center. I would also like to thank Maria Gavrilidou, who was my supervisor in the center. And yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Vasiliki. That was another fascinating presentation. I think so interesting, especially from the perspective of invigorating and lending a new perspective to such an ancient text. I found it really inspiring to hear about the way that these technologies and approaches can be leveraged against older texts like this. It's just sort of really reaffirming about the whole digital humanities approach in the first place. We're going to open the floor to some questions now. If anybody has any questions, we would love to hear from you guys. So you can either type your questions into the chat and I will read them out, or if you'd like to ask a question on camera, no pressure to put the camera on, but you can just raise your hand using the raise hand function or just jump in. We would be very pleased to answer any questions that you guys might have. So I'll give you a moment to ask your question, and we can take things from there. And you can also ask a question to Nicky if you have more technical questions. Like I said, you can also take this opportunity to get a direct answer straight away about the application to the TNA scheme or with it. While people are thinking of questions or whatever, I might ask both Tania and Vasiliki, what's next with your guys' projects? So I would love to know, like, after the TNA scheme, you know, what is next, or what has been the next step after your TNA scheme? Where are the, like, what is the status of both of these projects that you've described in such great detail? I was just wondering, yeah, like, what is the next step? Where are they concluded? Where are you guys fixed? Yeah, Tania, if you want to answer first.
Yeah. As I said, we are working on a conceptual mapping of agricultural food products. So this is going to last at least a year. So this is going to be our project for the time being. And we are going to incorporate the NLP tools and do validation tests against other LLMs and see what works best, working with multiple languages at the same time.
That's super exciting to bring the multilingual element into it. That's wonderful. Vasiliki, what about you? What is next for you with this project in particular?
For me, like now I'm in the stage of applying for PhD positions because I think that I want to delve into research. And what I was thinking particularly for this project, it was to extend a bit the methodology, because now I'm into drafting a proposal, and I was thinking like to make a more into deep learning and technical approach to the method.
That's wonderful. Wow. We look forward to keeping tabs on how the project develops, and absolutely best of luck with the PhD research and applications. That sounds like a really cool idea. So we've got a question in the chat. Thank you so much, Inma, for your question. So I'll just read it out. So thank you for the presentations. It was fascinating to know about your projects. A question for both of you, Malamatenia and Vasiliki. How long has it taken you to prepare the projects in terms of designing the workflow and applying to the TNA? Thank you in advance. It's a really good question.
So if I can answer first. As I said, I was already working on data collection and analysis from social media. So I knew what my research needs were. So writing the proposal for the program was really easy and quick. And the entire process was really easy. Our platform, emails exchanged, forms, etc. Everything was smooth. And I applied, and a few months later I received the reply that I had been accepted. Then I forgot to say that before applying, I had reached out to the center that I wanted to be placed at and get an understanding with them first, if I would be a good applicant for them. And after that, I went with the formal application. So I already knew that if I would be accepted, where I would be going, if that helps.
And for me, it was kind of the same, I would say. Like I drafted the proposal quite quickly because I had like the methodology. It was more or less similar with my master thesis methodology. So it was something that happened quick. And then the whole process, what I have to say is that it was pretty clear. Like once you find your institution and that they want to accept you, etc., and the applying process is okay.
Super. Thank you so much for your answers. Nicky, your hand is up. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, just to thank you, Tania, for mentioning the contacting organizations ahead of time, because I think this is really important. It's we like to get people to work with the organizations in terms of their applications as well. So you can contact and work propose an idea and they might suggest things that you can do as well. So it makes the application process that much easier and hopefully leads to more successful applications as well. So it's just to highlight, it's a really useful part, and it's something that we recommend via the information on our website.
Super. Thank you so much, Nicky. Yeah, does anyone have any other questions or any other practical or technical? Yeah, Jess, your hand is up. Feel free to jump in and ask the question. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Thank you so much. Can you hear me, first of all? Yeah, perfect. Okay. Thank you so much for your presentations. I stumbled across Atrium quite recently, and really, really impressed with everything that it's doing. I'm currently about a third of a way through a PhD in a matter that would be quite fitting for this network, I think. And I just wondered how long, I suppose I have a couple of practical questions, if that makes sense. So how long is this process probably going to last? So I probably wouldn't be able to do anything this year, for example, just because of commitments that I've already got. But I would love to do something with it perhaps next year or something like that. And I just wanted to know what the sort of timeline is for Atrium in general and that type of information, I suppose. And then secondary to that is, are there any restrictions? So I know, Nicky, you mentioned that when you did it, because you were based in the UK, it was a bit different. So I just basically, are there restrictions because I'm in the UK? And also, is there a time restriction for it?
Sure, I think I can field those. Let's go one at a time, which is the scheme. So the Atrium project, I think, lasts till 2027. Is that right, Amelia?
Okay.
But the okay, great. But the TNA scheme has 6 full calls, and we've done 2 already. This is the 3rd one, so there'll be another one this year, and then 2 more next year. So the project will last beyond those calls. So you can always apply for the scheme as part of those calls, and then do your placement later on, as long as it takes place within the time frame of the Atrium project. So there's still quite a lot of time, I suppose, to do that. In terms of the placements themselves and how long the placements are, we don't put a restriction on the individual access ones because it depends on what research you want to do and also the host organization. So they have a set number of what we call access weeks. It's just the kind of EC term as part of the project that they can offer. So they might be able to offer you quite a long placement or a shorter placement. It does depend on what you're proposing and which organization you're proposing to. That's why we say, contact in advance, because, obviously you might want to put that in your application is how long it's for. The final one, and please correct me if I've messed this up, in terms of the transnational aspect, you're not eligible to the funding if you apply within a country. So when I did it, I didn't realize that. I hadn't read the information online and all that kind of stuff, and haphazardly applied. And so what ended up happening was the project I was working for funded me to travel, and the ADS were kind enough to alleviate a spot for me. That being said, it depends on the organization. If you're applying to a summer school, for example, we've had far more applications than we've had spots. Usually about twice as much. So it might be that if you were applying within a country, they wouldn't have a spot for you. But if you apply outside of the country, then they definitely would. So that's the difference. I'd always recommend contacting someone in advance and asking them, and all the contact details are on the Atrium website for those different organizations as well. So if you have any questions, then do feel free to contact the hosts directly. You can, if you have specific questions about visiting them, but you can also obviously email me with more questions as well. I'm more than happy to help.
That's great. Thank you so much for your help. And this has been really great. So thank you for all of the speakers as well.
Amazing. Thanks so much for your question, Jess. I know we're approaching the hour, so and people probably have other commitments to get off to on a Friday. So if there's any last minute questions, you still have a moment or two to ask them now. And I know Nicky in the chat has just provided his emails, so email for any follow-up questions. So don't hesitate to get in touch with us. So yeah, if there are no final questions, I'll bring this meeting to a close, but just wanted to say thank you so much to all of our speakers, to Tenia, Nicky and Vasiliki, and to everyone who attended. It was wonderful to have you with us, and hopefully these sessions were helpful. We'll be making the recording available on YouTube, and please do join us on the 4th of April, so this time next week, where we're going to have Dr. Maria Lobanova and Peter Gathoni, who I think is on this call, I've spotted, and they're going to be presenting their experiences of the TNA scheme too, and we're really looking forward to that, those other perspectives on the TNA scheme, to hear about 2 other really exciting projects. So thank you so much again, and yeah, see you guys at the next one.
Thank you so much for the invitation, for having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.